You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
George will issue stark warning about looming social security crisis, based on an article by Alex Henderson. Social security is not the problem. Political cowardice is the source of the crisis. George Will's column uses Social Security's projected shortfall to stage a familiar ritual, turn a political decision into a natural disaster. The facts he cites are real enough, and the timeline is ugly. The retirement program's costs have exceeded its income since 2021. The trust fund is projected to run down before the 2032 elections, and absent action, automatic benefit cuts would follow. That is the context. The argument around it is where the distortion begins. The people who actually hold power, the actors with real institutional power, are not retirees, not workers, and not some abstract elderly faction. It is Congress, especially the Senate winners Will is talking about, and the broader political class that has known the state was coming for years. Social Security was modified in 1977 and again in 1983 to push the crisis down the road. That bought time, not courage. The present deadline is the result of elected officials postponing a hard choice until it becomes an emergency. The useful scapegoat. Will's most revealing move is rhetorical. He calls Social Security wealth redistribution masquerading as retirement program and frames older Americans as a privileged bloc clutching a bone. That is not neutral analysis. It is an attack line dressed up as policy seriousness. It shifts attention away from the institutions making the rules and onto the people receiving the benefits. That is a classic misdirection tactic. Moralize the recipient, obscure the decision maker. What the column hides. The column treats the program's financing problem as if it were mainly a matter of demographics, arithmetic, and elderly entitlement. Those are part of the story, but not the whole of it. The decisive question is what Congress chooses to do before the trust fund runs out. Will's language pretends that the system is colliding with some unavoidable fact of nature, when in reality the automatic cuts exist because lawmakers have not been forced to own the consequences of delay. The political pattern. This is how austerity language works in practice. It takes a program millions rely on, recasts it as a burden carried by the productive generation, and primes the public to accept cuts as maturity rather than theft. The pattern is not fiscal honesty. It is elite evasion. First defer responsibility, then declare the outcome inevitable, then blame the people who will pay for the delay. The real lesson: Social Security is not failing because it is too generous to ordinary people. It is being left to drift toward a manufactured crisis because the governing class finds postponement easier than confrontation. That is the larger story here. When institutional power refuses to act, it does not vanish. It reappears later as a knife aimed at the public program itself, with commentators explaining that the cut was unavoidable. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article, with the automated voice of Joe. Thanks for listening.